And it is a great pleasure to welcome back a good friend to our show here. It's been too long since we talked to him, but good news is he'll be back in the Sarasota area doing a concert with a lot of great jazz musicians coming up on Friday, December 14th, 7:30 p.m. It'll be at the Beatrice Friedman Symphony Center in Sarasota, Florida, part of the Jazz Club of Sarasota series. And we're joined by one of the great vibe players, one of the great drummers, Chuck Redd, by telephone today. And Chuck, before we went on air, we were talking a little bit, but I think about 3 or 4 years ago when we last kind of touched base. Been too long, but good to talk to you. How you been?
I've been fine, Doug. It's great to talk to you again. It's really always a pleasure to be on your show, and always a pleasure to be coming back to Florida, to the Sarasota area.
One of the great jazz areas. I grew up in New York. I think I told you that before. And New York, obviously, one of the centerpieces of jazz. But I was very surprised when I came down to Sarasota how many jazz musicians, if they don't live here, people like yourself, make at least a trip once every 1 or 2 years to perform down here. They love jazz here in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a great jazz audience down there. Very supportive, discerning, enthusiastic people there. I played a concert for the Jazz Club a couple of years ago on my own, as you know, and with some local musicians down there, with some great players that live right around Sarasota. And then I played at the Van Wezel Auditorium quite a few times over the years with Ken Poplowski and Charlie Byrd and the Smithsonian Jazz Masterworks Orchestra. And yeah, I love it down there. It's a beautiful town, beautiful area.
Yeah, the show you'll be doing on the 14th with Ken Poplowski and the Nate Najar Quartet. You've worked with those folks before, I imagine, right?
A lot, yes, absolutely. Well, I've worked with Ken on and off for about 20 years now, something like that. And I've played a lot in his groups, and I've hired him to play with my groups, and he's appeared on a couple of my recordings, and I've been on some of his, and we're great friends, and I always love playing with him. I think he's the greatest living jazz clarinetist and one of the best saxophonists as well. And Nate Najar is a young man who I first met close to 10 years ago, I'd say, and he was very young then. He was maybe 21 or 22, and he came to Washington, D.C. to play. And at the time, I recognized that he was profoundly influenced by Charlie Byrd, who was one of my mentors and a gentleman I spent many years touring with and recording with. So we had an immediate rapport musically, and I'd like to think I've helped him out a lot. I've introduced him to a lot of people in the business, and he's always risen to the occasion. He's doing really, really well right now. And he's got a brand new CD out, which I'm on, and proud to be on it.
Great, yeah. I always thought that being a jazz musician, or any kind of musician, but particularly jazz, is a lot like being a ball player. You play ball, different, baseball or whatever, basketball. It's that type of thing. You kind of work together. There's great camaraderie, a little competition as well. Is it like that? It seems that way.
It is very much like that way. It's I think especially when you get to the point where you're working all the time and you're working with great people, I think there's a mutual respect, and there's you have people that are team players. Occasionally you have people that are just stars and not great team players, but that doesn't happen as often in jazz as maybe in other areas of the music business. But yeah, there's a great sense of camaraderie. And the other thing, which I kind of alluded to with my relationship with Nate, there's a mentorship process that goes on that's very important. And I certainly had great mentors coming up: Charlie Byrd, Barney Kessel, Herb Ellis, the great arranger Bill Potts. Many people have helped me. People from generations before me really helped guide me and teach me. And some of those gentlemen that are around still do that. I'm 54 now, and there are people like Dick Hyman and Bucky Pizzarelli that I get to work with.
Oh, yeah.
Harry Gibbs. These people are still going very strong, and they're in their 80s, and they're still teaching and playing great, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, Dick's a good friend of ours. Of course, lives right down in Venice, a little bit south of
Right.
of us. Get a chance to talk to him several times a year. Like you said, yeah, I think he's in his mid 80s. I'm not giving anything away there. He told me, and he said he still practices, 3 or 4 hours a day, every day, and does shows all around the country. So, I guess something in music that keeps you going.
It really does, because you can never stop learning. And often people will ask, well, what was your biggest performance, or your most important performance, or the most important performance to you? And I always tend to say, and I think a lot of musicians feel this way, I always tend to say, well, hopefully it's coming up very soon.
Yeah, right.
Because that's how you really feel. There's not one performance that's more important. They're all important, and you really try to continue to grow and learn, and it becomes quite an adventure once you kind of know what you're doing and you're out there and you're experimenting and playing with different musicians. So it's really nice playing with people that are of different generations. Young musicians teach me a lot. I have a lot of wonderful students. I teach at University of Maryland, and I learn a lot from my students. And hopefully they learn a little from me as well.
Oh yeah. I was always amazed watching people like yourself and jazz musicians, how maybe you haven't seen each other in a while, maybe you've never played with somebody, like talking about your students, but you can just, somebody can throw out a song and you all kind of can do it. That's amazing to me.
Right. Well, a lot of people find that fascinating, and it's really, I think it's really about knowing a common language, and we all speak that language with a little different accent.
Right.
But there really is a common language, and one of the myths that's possibly believed, a belief that's possibly prevalent with a lot of people who are non-musicians, is that all jazz is improvised, and it's certainly not. A lot of what we do is pre-planned, and it's thought out and preconceived. And I think that's it's just about how you do it. You do it a little bit differently every time, but you may play the same notes.
Yeah, there's a structure to it, but you can ad-lib or improvise, I guess is the proper word, with the melody, right? Yeah.
Right. That's right, around the melody and the chord structure of the tune, and it truly is different each time, but sometimes only slightly different, and that's good too. That's wonderful, because then you're refining things and you're kind of sculpting something that you've been working on for many years, and it's a great feeling as you watch it take shape.
Talking with Chuck Red. We'll be in Sarasota on December 14th. It's a Friday, 7:30 p.m. concert at the Beatrice Friedman Symphony Center. We'll give out the number in a little bit for tickets, but just kind of, again, for folks that weren't with us before, you've worked with some of the real legends. You mentioned some before, like Dick Hyman, and you worked with one of my favorites. I had a chance now to kind of get to know his son a little bit, Steve March Torme. You worked with his dad, Mel, many times, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I kind of worked with Mel on and off for about 5 years in the mid-'90s. I worked with him first at Michael's Pub in New York City.
Oh, yeah.
He had a quintet there. I'm sure you remember that room on the east side.
Sure, yeah.
And we played there, and then I played with him a couple times at Carnegie Hall, which was great. Then I did it was like about a 6 or 7 week tour all around the country with him. Might have even been longer than that, but because I think we hit 40 cities.
Wow.
And he was great every night. I mean, he was doing one-nighters, and of course the voice can be tricky if you're singing every night. There can be endurance problems and fatigue, and he came out there every night and sounded fantastic every single night, and it was a great experience to play with Mel.
He was old school. I mean, he could do it all, but that show, you felt like he was doing it for the first time. Every number that he sang, whenever you saw him, he never let it get old. Yeah.
That's right. You learned from being on stage with him. You learned a lot about entertaining and about engaging the audience. He was the real thing, and that's one of the kind of an art that people have lost to some extent. I think some jazz musicians have let that slide a little bit. I think it's very important to connect. You don't have to be a lounge act. You don't have to be over the top with show business, but it's certainly very, very important to connect with an audience, to speak with them, to tell them what you're doing, and to help draw them in. Because we really, without an audience, we don't have a gig.
Right.
So it's really good to be able to cultivate the audience and to connect with them, and and to appreciate the audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare, but occasionally, I think we've all been through that, where you see a group on stage or wherever you might be that is just playing for themselves and they're not paying any attention to the audience either. That doesn't work.
Not really. It really doesn't. I mean, people tend to not want to come back the next time.
Right.
So it's important. But Mel was a master of that. He could, I learned this from a lot of the gentlemen from kind of that generation. I put Charlie Bird in this category, Barney Kessel, Herb Ellis, Dizzy Gillespie. They could be tired, and they could not. You could tell they really didn't feel like working that night, and they would hit the stage, and they would turn on the switch, and they were on from the beginning of that show until the end. And there's so much to that. There's so much importance in that, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about what the folks are going to hear on December 14th with Ken Peplowski and the Nate Najar Quartet. Do you get together by phone and to kind of decide your set, or how do you work that out?
Well, it's kind of that's part of it. Part of it is talking things over. We've also done Ken and Nate and I have collaborated on some holiday programs before.
Mm-hmm.
This will be a kind of a holiday program, as well as I'm sure we'll probably do. We might do a Benny Goodman tune or two, because that's one of the things Ken does so well. And we'll probably do some maybe a tune or two off of Nate's recent album, new album. But mostly a holiday program. John Lamb will be playing bass, great bass player.
Oh, sure.
Who played with Ellington, and of course he now lives in the Tampa area. So we'll talk through some things and play some of the things we've played before, and I know it'll be a swinging evening, and we'll have a lot of fun, because it's been like that before every time we work together. And probably throw in some bossa nova, because Nate does that really well, as does Ken, and I certainly played a lot of bossa novas with Charlie Bird, so I'm pretty comfortable there too.
Great. Again, the number is 941-366-1552, 366-1552 for tickets on the 14th of December, part of the Sarasota Jazz Clubs right here in Sarasota. And Chuck, you mentioned you're on the CD with Nate Najar. You got any other CD projects coming up?
Nothing. Well, actually, it looks like I may be doing another one with him in January. That's coming up. I don't have anything definite in the works right now. As you may know, I recorded for Arbors for the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Or more than that. Gee, about 5 or 6 years actually. And we just lost Matt Domber, who was the president of the company and produced the recordings.
Oh, I didn't know
I'm
that.
not sure he just died about 2 months ago.
Oh.
We're not really sure what's going to happen with Arbors. And I've got some possibilities with a couple of other labels to possibly do something in the coming year in 2013, and I really hope to. I'm hoping to put something out by the end of next year, and but nothing definite yet. But I'll let you know as soon as I have something that works. But my latest one is, and you may have it. It's The Common Thread on Arbors, featuring Houston Person, Mickey Roker, Lozano Sportiello, and Bob Cranshaw.
Great. And then your website, give out your website, Chuck, if we get a hold of the music there, or yourself, or gigs. ChuckRedMusic.com, is that the website?
It's just ChuckRed.com.
ChuckRed.com.
Yep, very easy to find. And my schedule is up there, and I'm kind of all over the country these days. Things have been really busy, and but I do get to Florida a few times a year. I get to St. Pete. There's a wonderful venue there called the Palladium, where we're going to be playing night after Sarasota.
Right.
And so it's really I always love seeing my friends down in your area.
It's REDD, just for some folks, if you're looking for the website, Red, Chuck Red. But you live a nomadic existence, Chuck, but that's the life of a musician, I guess, right?
I guess somewhat nomadic, yeah. It's been like that. It's been very interesting my whole adult life, since I was 21 years old. That was when I first went on the road, and I've been around the country many times and I go to Europe occasionally. I guess I've been about 25 times now, and yeah, that's just how it is. If you're lucky enough to be asked to go and play places, you go, and you want to go share what you do with other people, and it's really quite wonderful. It's really nice to have all these friends all over the place. I remember Dizzy Gillespie talking about this when he got to be much older, when he was in his 70s, or maybe even, I guess he was in his early 70s, and he said really what I do, he said, I just travel around the world visiting friends.
Yeah.
That's what I do for a living. And sometimes it feels like that. It's wonderful because I've traveled so much at this point that everywhere I go, I know some people, and I know good musicians, and we always have a good time together.
Great. Well, Chuck, we appreciate you taking a few minutes tonight. I know you've been on the road, but glad that we could catch up with you. Again, you can see Chuck on December 14th at the Beatrice Friedman Symphony Center. It's a Friday night, 7:30 p.m. show with Ken Poplowski and Nate Najar's quartet. And Chuck, let's not wait another 3 or 4 years before we do this again, huh?
Definitely. Let's talk soon again, Doug, and look forward to seeing everybody down there.